All right, let's go over the sample test for 152. It says plot point A at -5, 3, 1, 2, 3. So there's A. B is at 0, -3. It says give the coordinates of C, which is at -6, 6. D, which is at 8, -3. Don't forget to put the parentheses on. I'll take points off if you don't put them on. And the last one is at 0, -8. And which quadrant is, and I need to correct that, E's on the line, so we don't want to do that one, but D. So the quadrants are 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's in quadrant 4. Sometimes written in Roman numerals, but I'll accept either that or the 4 like that. Okay. Now some more graphing here. We have to graph. I'm pushing my computer out of the way here so I can get to this. We have to graph 2x plus 3y equals 12. I find when it's in general form like this, it's probably easiest to just find the intercepts. So if I want the x-intercept, I'm going to let y be 0. If y is 0, 3 times 0 is 0, this is gone, and I have 2x has to equal 12. So 2 times 6 would have to be 12. And the y-intercept, I let x be 0. And if that's 0, I have 3y equals 12. 3 goes in 12, 4. So I'm going to go through the point 6, 0, and the point 0, 4. And this is equation of a line, so I'm just going to sketch the line in here. Something like that. But you could have solved for y, so subtract 2x, and we would have 3y equals -2x plus 12, subtracting 2x from both sides, and then divide everything by 3, and we'd get y equals -2/3 x plus 4. And this is saying the y-intercept is 4, and we go down 2 for 3 over, and down 2 for 3 over. And it makes the same line. And I asked for the intercepts in the next question. Well, I've already done those. X equals 7. Well, there's where x equals 7, but x is also 7 here, and here, and here, and anywhere here. So here's the line for number 6. And then write the equation of a line perpendicular to number 4. So you have to remember that perpendicular, if this has a slope of down 2 for 3, the perpendicular has to be up 3 for 2 to go perpendicular. Okay, so it's going to have a slope of up 3 for every 2. Okay, take the slope of the original line, flip it over, and change its sign. So we got to take the opposite, so it's plus. Instead of 2/3, it's 3/2. So the equation would be y equals 3/2 x plus some y-intercept, and I asked for it to go through -3, 1. So if we put in -3 for the x, we're supposed to get 1. Well, -3 times 3/2 times negative 3, which is over 1. We multiply that, we get 9 halves. So which is 4 and a half. And so we have 1 has to equal 4 and 1 half plus b. Well, to make 4 and a half get down to 1, b is going to have to be negative 3 and a half, or subtract 4 and 1 half from both sides. And we get b is negative 3 and 1 half. But it said write the equation, so I have to finish writing the equation. This is the start of it, but I have to put this in for b. So my final answer would be y equals 3 halves x plus a negative 3 and 1 half. And to just check that, make sure it's perpendicular, and going through negative 3, 1, if I go to negative 3 and a half as a y-intercept, and then go negative 3, 1, something's wrong here. Do. Let me see if I can see that. So that's negative 9 halves, or negative 9 halves. Negative 9 halves, so negative 4 and a half. Yeah, because it wasn't going to be perpendicular. It wasn't going to go through negative 3, 1. I knew I had something wrong. That's a good thing I checked it. That should have been negative 9 fourths, so if I add 4 and a half to this, I get plus 5 and a half. So this has to be plus 5 and a half. So if I go to 5 and 1 half, and then do a slope of up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 2, I get in this direction. And if I follow it far enough, it should hit negative 3, 1, like it was supposed to here. Okay. Sorry for the mistake on that. Even I make errors like that. Okay. So that was 7. So number 8, solve for x. So we have x's on both sides. So I'm going to take away 3x. Take away 3x, and I'm going to have 4x plus 2 equals negative 9. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, and I'm going to get 4x equals negative 11. Divide by 4, and I get x equal negative 11 over 4. B. I'm going to distribute the 3, so I'm going to get 3x minus 6 equals 18 minus 6x. I prefer to have positive x's, so I'm going to add 6 x's to both sides. So I get 9x minus 6 equals 18. I'm going to add 6 to both sides. I get 9x equals 24. I'm going to divide both sides by 9. And I get x equals 24 ninths. Let's see, 3 goes into both of those, so I could reduce it to 8 thirds, or 2 and 2 thirds. Any of those answers. C. I see a common denominator of 6, so I'm going to multiply each part of this by 6. 2 goes into 6 3 times, so I got 3 times 1, which is 3. 3 goes into 6 2 times, so I get minus 2x. And 3 goes into 6 2 times 4 is 8. And then I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. I'm going to get minus 2x equals 5. I'm going to divide by minus 2. And I'm going to get x equals negative 5 halves, or negative 2 1/2, or negative 2.5. Another common denominator, let's see, I can make these all be 2x if I multiply. So 2x looks like the common denominator, so I'm going to multiply by 2x on each one of these. The 2x's cancel here, this stays 7. The 2's cancel here, and this becomes negative 1x. The x cancels here, and this becomes 10. 2 times 5, 10. So I subtract 10 from both sides, and I get negative 1x equals negative 7. I divide by negative 1, and I get x equals 7. Okay. Number 9. Students moving to college and wants to rent a small van. Max Move rents the van for $35.10 a mile. Well, Easy Peasy rents the same van for $40.08 a mile. Write an equation for the cost for renting from Max Move, where X is the number of miles used. So I would, since I need to be consistent here, I get cents and dollars, so I'm going to write everything in dollars. So I'm going to say the cost C is going to be, for Max Move, it's $35 plus $0.10 times each mile X. For Easy Peasy, the cost is going to be $40 plus $0.08, that's 8 cents, times each mile. And so now we want to know when these two are the same, so I'm going to write 35 plus 0.010x equals 40 plus 0.08x. I want to get x on the same side, so I'm going to subtract 0.08x's from both sides. And 0.08 from 10, 8 from 10 is going to be 0.02x. And the 35 equals 40. Subtract 35 from both sides, and I get 0.02x equals 5. And divide by 0.02, and I get x equals 5 divided by 0.02. I'm going to pull out my calculator and see, it's 200, that's 500, 250, I believe. 5 divided by 0.02. And this is a problem that's got a context. So x was standing for the amount of miles. So it's 250 miles. So the cost of renting the van for Max Move is going to be the same as the cost for renting from Easy Peasy if the trip is 250 miles. Okay, which company is a costs more for larger distances? Well, the larger the distance, the more the one that costs more per mile is going to be more. So Max Move costs more for over 250 miles because this is the explain. It charges more per mile. Okay, last page. Alan rides to work on a bicycle averaging 20 miles per hour and returns home averaging 15 miles per hour. The total time is 3.5 hours. How far is it to work for Alan? Write an expression for the time it takes to get to work d miles away. So we talked before, like if somebody drove 60 miles per hour for 1 hour, he goes 60 miles. So this is how fast, the speed, times how much time gives you the distance. So if they're going d distance and we want to get time, we have to divide by the speed, So time is the distance divided by the speed. I said d miles, so we go d divided by, to get to work, he's going at 20, that's the speed, 20 miles an hour, so d divided by 20 is the time going to work. Write an expression for the time it takes to return home. So by the same logic, that it's going to be d, same distance, divided by 15 miles per hour. That's the time it takes to come home. So he does the whole trip in 3.5 hours. So d divided by 20, the time going down, plus d divided by 15, the time coming back, has to come out to be 3.5. So what's our common denominator? Let's see, 15 and 20 both go into 15 and 15 is 30, 20 is 30. 4 15s is 60, and 20 goes into 60, so I'm going to multiply everything by 60. 20 goes into 63, so we get 3 times the distance, plus 15 goes into 60 4 times, so I get 4 times the distance, equals 3.5 times 60. So pull out my calculator and do 3.5 times 60, and I get 210. So 7d equals 210. Divide by 7 on both sides. And the distance is 30. 7 and a 210 is 30 miles. Okay, this one says, perform the indicated operation on complex numbers. So we got to take 2 of these, so that's 6 minus 4i, and then we got to subtract this. So we got to subtract 4 and subtract an I, so that's add an I. So we got 6 minus 4, the real part, so that's 2, and minus 4i plus an I is minus 3i's. Just kind of think of the i's as x's. So you got minus 4x's plus an x is minus 3x's. This one, there's a little bit of a catch at the end, so let's do this one. So now we're multiplying. So 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times negative I is negative 2i, or negative 2x if you were thinking as I as an x. 5 times 3i is plus 15i, or x if you will. And we're going to get negative 3x, or I squared. Negative 3i squared. This is where it's different. I squared, or the square root of negative 1, which is what I is, times the square root of negative 1, is negative 1. So we have negative 3 times negative 1, which makes this a plus 3. So we have 10 minus 2i plus 15i's plus 3. The 10 and the 3 are both the real parts, no i's on them, so we get 13, and minus 2i's plus 15i's is plus 13i. Just happened to come out 13 plus 13i. Okay, solve the following equation by factoring. Well, first, if you're going to factor, we want to get them in order. 6 and all on one side equal to 0. So it's going to be 6x squared. I'm going to subtract 3, subtract 3. The next one would be the 7x. Please write these in order so that you don't mess up. Now to factor this, you can line up your strips. 0 and 7, they're going to multiply to be negative 18. 0 and 7, I'll do it here, 0 and 7. We got to get negative 18. So minus 1 and 8, minus 2 and 9, minus 3 and 10. We want to get negative 18. Oh, I passed it already. So that's x minus 2 and x plus 9. But I need to have 6x squared, so I'm going to move the 2 to there, and make that 1, and move 3 out of here, divide this by 3, and I get 3, and put a 3 there. So I get 3x minus 1, and 2x plus 3, or if you learned a different way of factoring, that's fine. I'm just helping the people that have struggled and want to use the strips. Now to solve using factoring, we set each one of these equal to 0 using that 0 property. If I get two things multiplied that are supposed to come out to be 0, either one of them has to be 0 or the other has to be 0. And we get answers from both of these. Add 1 to both sides and we get 3x equals 1. Divide by 3 and x equals 1/3. Or subtract 3. We get 2x equals negative 3. Divide by 2 and x equals negative 3 halves. And to the final page. Solve the following using the quadratic formula. Once again, the first thing we want to do is get them in order and equal to 0. So I have to write 2x squared. I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. So it's equal to 0. So minus 5x plus 1 equals 0. And so a in the quadratic formula is going to be 2. B is going to be negative 5. And C is going to be 1. And the quadratic formula is x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So the opposite of b is plus 5 plus or minus the square root. B squared negative 5 times negative 5 is plus 25. And a minus 4 times a and c, and these are both positive, so this is going to be minus. And 4 times 2 is 8, times 1 is 8. All, this part and this part, got to get the line under all of it over 2a. 2 times 2 is 4. So we get 5 plus or minus square root 8 from 25 is 17 over 4. You can leave it like that. I want the exact solution. I better put that in here. Solve the following using the quadratic formula, and I want the exact solution. I should have said that. Exact solutions. Okay, now solve this one by graphing. Let's get it all equal to 0. X to the 4th. Ooh, I've got some x squareds on both sides, so I'll subtract this. So I'll have 3x squared minus 13 is minus 10x squared minus 27x plus 36 equals 0. And I think I meant that to be cubed, and I didn't write cubed. So this is going to give me ugly answers on the graph, but that's okay. We'll get the ugly answers here. And I'll try to make them come out to be nicer numbers on regular here. So we got x to the 4th, and you can graph this also on Desmos, minus 10x to the 2nd. Oop. Minus 27x plus 36. And if I go zoom 6, this is probably going to, it's not terrible. Looks like there's a solution here and a solution here. There should be 4. I'm going to zoom out. Zoom out. Yeah, I'm only seeing the 2. I'm going to go back to zoom 6. And I need to know that one. Second, calculate the 0. If you said about 1 and about 1, 2, 3, 3.9, I would accept that, but this is how on a calculator you go to second, calculate, right above trace, second calculate, and then if you choose the 0, which is option 2, and then you can say, I want the one that's between 0 and 2. So I'm going to say 0, enter, 2, enter, and my guess is about 1, and it says 1 is 1. It does go through 1. So x equals 1. I'm going to go second, calculate the 0. That's between, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to go 3, enter, 4, enter. So it's looking between 3 and 4. I think it's about 3.9. And it says, no, it's 3.821. Now, fourth degree could have up to 4 places it's equal to 0. In this case, it only has 2. Okay? Now we got this one. So let's move the 5 out by dividing both sides by 5. Equals 3. Now to get rid of cube root, we do the opposite, which is cube it. So we get x minus 21 equals 3 times 3 is 9 times another 3 is 27. 3 3's multiplied. Add 21 to both sides and we get x equals 48. On this one, I'm going to not worry about the 2 first. I'm going to take care of this first. We always go kind of backwards. So I'm going to add 36 to both sides, and I get 2x to the 3/4 power equals 18 plus 36, 54. I'm adding 36 to both sides. Now I'll divide by the 2, and I get x to the 3/4 equals 27. And I set this one up wrong. I should have had this 4/3 because I wanted this to work out nicer. But I didn't, so let's just continue. To get rid of the 3/4, we're going to have to take it to the 4, no, that's right, 4/3. And so I get to take this side to the 4/3. And that makes 12/12, which is 1. So we got x equals 27 to the 4/3. The denominator says cube root. The cubed root, that denominator, tells us this, of 27. Well, 27 is 3 times 9, which is 3 times 3. So this is a 3. So the cube root of 27 is 3. And we've got to take it to the 4th power. We did the cube root to the 4th. Another way to think of that is 27 to the 1/3 power to the 4th power. When you got a power to power, you multiply them, so this would be 4/3, which is what we had. So we can do the cube root first and then to the 4th. And 3 to the 4th, 3 times 3 is 9. And if I'm doing 4 of them, 3 times 3, that's a 9. The other 2 are 9, so 9 times 9 is 81. So x equals 81. In interval notation, so we're between -3, this is in between notation, so it doesn't include the -3, no equal on it, so not including the -3 up to 11, including it. Interval notation for in between -3 and 11, including 11. This one, we've got the part down here, so it goes from, always go from from left to right. So it goes from -infinity up to -1, including the -1. Never include the infinities. And then we have more, so we say union. And now we start at 2, but not including it because of the open circle. So we go from 2 to infinity. Not including the infinity. Never put brackets on the infinities. And our last couple of problems. So we subtract 5 from both sides, just like you would do if it was equals, and we get negative 3x greater than or equal to negative 1 by subtracting 5, and then we have to divide by a negative 3, but when you divide by negative, sign flips. X is on this side. This is negative 1 divided by negative 3 is 1/3 positive, and the sign flips. This one, get it down to an absolute value first, so we're going to divide the 2. It's greater than 2 divided by 2 divided by 2, 2. So if it's a greater than, you have to be further than 2 away from there. So if zero's there, you have to be more than 2 away. So you got to be over there or down here. So we write 3 minus 2x has to be greater than 2, or 3 minus 2x has to be less than negative 2. So now we solve this by subtracting 3, and we get negative 2x is greater than, subtract 3, that's negative 1. Now I'm going to divide by negative, so I'm going to have to flip the sign. Dividing by negative 2, and I get positive 1/2. So x, the numbers have to be either less than 1/2 or, and this one, we subtract 3, and we get negative 5, and we get negative 2x. I have to divide by negative 2, and I get, it says it's a negative 2. Sign's going to flip, and this is going to be plus 5/2 or 2.5, and this will be x. So x has to either be less than 1/2 or greater than 2.5. Okay?